build it back up. So it was incredible timing. So there was a massive amount of money going out in contracts, and particularly for weapons and ammunition, which was his specialty. And so he started bidding on these contracts. He's very, very aggressive, a huge workaholic. So he would get the prices from everyone he could find on the internet, negotiate with them hard, then mark it up a tiny bit, bid it to the government, win the contract, give the government a whole bunch of excuses why he needed to change the price after he won. He learned all sorts of
tricks of the trade.
Tricks of the trade like that in order to increase his margins. And he started making a decent amount of money. And after about a year of that, is when we bumped into each other. We bumped into each other, unlike in the movie where they show us bumping into each other at a funeral.
Yeah.
That didn't happen.
Damn.
It was it was at a mutual friend's house. He came over to smoke weed, and we were smoking weed together. And as people do, he's like, "What are you doing these days?" And at the time, I was in college. I was studying chemistry. And I had a few side gigs to support myself while I was in college. I was a massage therapist. That is true.
Were you also? Okay.
Yeah. No, you were gonna say.
No, go ahead.
And I also had a business where I was importing SD cards from China, buying them in bulk and selling them on eBay. Great business because they're super easy to store and easy to ship. They're tiny little things, and the margins back then were pretty good. Now, terrible, but back then this was before the Chinese had discovered that they could sell on eBay themselves. So it was a great opportunity, and I was making decent money. And I had also gotten into selling bed sheets and towels as they portray in the movie, but differently than how they portray in the movie. I wasn't going door to door with a bunch of bed sheets and trying to convince people. It was all over the phone, and I didn't even buy the bed sheets until I already had a buyer. I was just doing brokering,
drop shipping before.
Yeah,
so they weren't in your apartment stacked up.
They were not. I did have samples in my apartment.
Okay.
So I had a few boxes of bed sheets, but it wasn't. I didn't have a stock of bed sheets that I was trying to get rid of. So I was just brokering. When I'd get an order, I'd put an order with the factory, get my cut, do the shipping, the whole thing, the licensing, the logistics, etc. And so I told him about this, and he was like, "Oh, that's pretty much all the same thing I'm doing, finding sources, doing logistics, getting licensing. This is international trade, and you could do it with any product. I'm making way more money than you, so maybe you should come and work with me. I need a smart guy, organized guy, a guy I could trust, and I always thought you were smart, so I think that maybe we could work together." And so I told him, "Well, how much money have you made, right?" And he's like, "I'm gonna tell you, but." He's like, "Well, it's kind of complicated because I have people who owe me money. I owe people money." So I'm like, "Well, how much money do you have right now?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm going to tell you, but only to inspire you. I'm not bragging, okay?" And I'm like, "Okay, well, tell me." And so he opens up his computer and he logs into his bank account, and I see in his bank account he has $1.8 million in the bank.
And how old was he?
And he was 18 years old.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
So I could do
he's a
this.
hustler. Yeah.
So
Wow.
I knew his parents hadn't given him that money.
Yeah.
So it wasn't, he had earned that money. I knew that. And so I realized, well, this guy knows a business.
Yeah.
And he's been doing really, really well at it. Way better than I was doing, that's for sure. I wasn't doing badly. I was very comfortable at the time, but way better than all my friends who were working as waiters and bartenders.
Than any 18-year-old, really.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like 0.01%.
Yeah. So I realized he knew a business, and I was like, well, he wants me to work with him, so that's an opportunity. And so we started working together. And